Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of my show. Today, I'm speaking to the inspiring Eugenie Drakes about her new business that she's busy developing. Eugenie, please will you introduce yourself and tell us about how you're shifting your business at the moment and all of the exciting things that you're up to.
Thanks, Melanie, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I just think it's amazing that people like yourself have jumped in and are adding value and creating community, because I think right now that is hugely, hugely important. I think for me, when you invited me to speak on the show, it's during this time I've been doing a lot of reflection, and it's for me not about the business. Actually, it's my journey as a human who happened to be an entrepreneur, and looking back and reflecting to see how things that happened in my life have been so much part of my journey. So I'm actually going to go right back to where I started, and how there's a common thread that I have seen coming through. So I grew up in a home that was very disciplined, that was very cold. We had to do the right thing. It was really important. My dad was a director of a big company, and we lived in a company house. My parents did a lot of entertaining, so we had a lot of staff, and many of the staff were living on the property. And for me, it was always that yin yang. So the staff quarters was always where there was warmth, there was simplicity, there was love, there was integrity, there was honesty and authenticity, whereas the home was cold and staged. Many of the people that, the staff that were there, I spent as much time as I could there, and it was amazing how they cared for me. They were mainly from KwaZulu-Natal. So I grew up with beds on bricks, stories about the tokolosh, all that traditional cultural stuff. So again, I was living in two realities that were worlds apart. And I stood in the middle.
That's so interesting.
It is very interesting, and particularly also because, I grew up in the 50s when apartheid was at its peak. Yes. I never realized, because that was the world I was brought in, and I had seen nothing different. I had no idea what was going on. So it was only when I traveled, after I trained as a radiographer. Again, it was a rebellious thing. My parents were determined I would be a teacher. It was the only thing they would pay for me to do. And I said, hell no, I'm not going to be a teacher. And radiography was the one thing I
You ate those words.
So off I went and I did radiography. The other thing about it also was that my parents took me to a counselor to be tested, career counselor. And the first thing he said is, you must not have anything to do with the sciences or maths, which was not rocket science, because I got an F for maths in matric. I mean, I could have told him that at age 17. Mm. And the other thing he said was, you are creative, and you kind of might be able to work in a florist shop, but you'll never be able to run the shop.
Wow.
So the other thing about radiography not having to pay to study it was the one thing. The other thing was I had to do physics and I had to do photography. And for me, going back, looking at that now, I believe if you set your mind to something, you will make it happen. I passed physics. I passed photography. If you told me before I went in, hell no. And possibly if my parents had forced me to do radiography, I would not have managed. Yes. The radiography for me was amazing because it took me on a journey overseas. I was working with an agency, so when I wanted work, I went to work, and when I didn't want work, I had enough money, I'd travel. But that was the first time that I actually realized what apartheid meant. I was staying in a hostel with a lot of other travelers, and I was walking down the steps one day, and a young black woman was walking up the stairs, and my immediate thought was, what is she doing here?
Mm.
It horrified me.
Mm.
And again, that's where my journey and my awakening started. Came back to South Africa, moved from Cape Town to Johannesburg, got married. I married a professional man. He was an auditor with one of the big firms, and I had to play the corporate wife, which just was not good for me at all. I was a really bad, unsupportive, militant corporate wife. But I had 2 beautiful sons, got involved in all their schooling. Anyway, 17 years later, it really wasn't working, and we got divorced. And there I found myself at age 45, having now to support myself, haven't worked for 18 years, and this whole new world was waiting for me. You know, again, the 2 different realities: corporate wife, mum, social person, involved in giving back. Again, it was these 2 different worlds: the corporate world, which is game playing and completely inauthentic, and then the world that I wanted to be in, where I could be myself and be with others who were themselves. Sorry, I tried various things, and then in the year, in the late 80s, 90s, I started working with a not-for-profit organization called Buy Africa, BUY Africa, and it was a project of the Liberty Foundation to get crafters to access markets. So I went there for 2 years, and eventually left because the whole dynamic and the whole structure was it didn't make sense to me at all. While I was there, I had also been involved. We did a big African Christmas store at a big shopping center here, which was a huge success. And I was wandering through the Furs, which is another shopping center, and the manager started talking to me, and she said, "Listen, don't you want to do a Christmas shop for 3 months?" Yes, I said, fabulous idea. Went to the bank, took all the money out of my mortgage, got into my car, came home with the car stuffed with pots and baskets and beads. And 2 weeks later, I was open. And as I opened the door, I went, I have no idea what to do. And there the journey started. And I think that is where so many entrepreneurs start. They have this beautiful creative idea, they're passionate about it, it excites them, and they muck in. So even to the extent that we still laugh about it. One day a friend of mine was in the store, and somebody came in and bought some stuff, and they said, "Oh, you know, we bought so much, will you give me a discount?" Yes, I said, 7.5%. And I went, I have no idea how to work out 7.5%. So I grabbed my calculator and I gave it to my friend, and I said, "Connie, please work out 7.5% on this amount." I said, "I'm just going to get something from the back." Anyway, that transaction happened. To cut a long story short, at the end of 3 months, I still had lots of baskets, lots of beads, and the bank wouldn't take them. So, and I was curious because I believe things happen in seasons.
Yes.
So I had done 1 season. It was a Christmas season, but I wanted to see how it rolled out. So I decided to stay on. About 9 months after that, I was approached by the general manager of the Saxon Hotel, which is a very high-end boutique hotel, to open a store there. And when I looked at it, I just thought it was an amazing opportunity, but I realized that I didn't know enough to run 2 stores. So I closed the store in the center and went to the Saxon. And that was an incredible opportunity for me, because it was that thing about being able to tell the histories, the stories, the cultures of the people, because I was very involved in the process. I worked a lot with the communities, doing market-driven product development, business training, and helping them access market. So again, I was in these 2 realities that were worlds apart. And it really used to excite me to see where the product ended up. I knew where it came from, and to see where it ended up. So, Princess Charlie's of Monaco, Oprah Winfrey, all sorts of people like that. And that for me was such an incredible motivation. And the other thing that I loved about it also was to work with the communities, because I got to experience culture, tradition, women, society, community, tribe. And then also to come back to this world where there was a community, but it was the red sole shoe community, the luxury handbag community. So again, it was these different realities. I was there for almost 2 years, and it was time to move on. I think we all, as we progress, we learn, and then we need to move on. And I was then lured back to the shop in Rosebank. Post that, I have, sorry.
That's where I first met you, was in that store in Rosebank. I remember that store was so beautiful. I had to just go in and take a closer look at the stuff there. You had curated such a beautiful selection of products. I think it's one of the finest curated selections that I've ever seen in my life. You did such a great job there. That store was amazing.
Thanks, Melanie, for that. But again, I believe very strongly that part of that was the energy that the product held that belonged to the maker. So we were in the store, but everybody whose hands had touched any item, their energy was in that store. And why I say I believe it also is I could tell when people were not well, the quality of their work was not the same. So I could go back and say, what's going on? And they'd say, how do you know? So that was interesting. I also had many opportunities. I was part of the Vital Voices program, Women Leadership Program, which was a project of Hillary Clinton. So that was incredible. It was women leaders from all over the world, from developing countries. And again, it was just for me the power of the women, the courage of the women, the challenges of the women, and the strength of women. I think women are phenomenal. And I still today have contact with many of those people, and I love it watching people grow. That gives me such joy. I was also part of the Goldman Sachs Gibbs 10,000 Women program, which again was an eye-opener for me. And there were two big takings there. The one was I made a speech at the end of our cohort's graduation. And it was about we came in small and now we stand tall. Because again, I think as women, we talk ourselves down. So it was about Nono Sokoto, who was like just about 5 foot. And she stood up, she said, my name is Nono and I am a farmer. And she sat down. In chatting to Nono and her father are farming in Standerton, very Afrikaans area. And they say that, again, it was the support of the farmers around them. They farm Ayrshire cattle and they supply milk into Woolworths. So my name is Nono, I'm a farmer, but I am Nono and we supply Woolworths. Why do we not own that? Why do we not own that? And it's not bragging, it's stating facts.
Yes.
So again, as we work with ourselves, why do we not introduce ourselves and actually own the facts of the life we live and what we are doing?
That's such a valuable message. Thank you. I think a lot of people watching can benefit from that.
So peace then became my being. With the economy going down, I'd almost lost passion for what I was doing. When I started, not many people were doing it. At the end of kind of 18 years, many people were doing it. And I think for me, my final blow was when I went to a trade show and there was the Department of Small Business that had exhibitors who were buying Chinese knockoffs of our traditional beadwork. and presenting them as if they'd made it themselves. And I just
Oh
thought, I
no.
cannot be part of this anymore. And I was not sure what to do, where to go. I relocated my business to New Doornfontein, which I thought would be amazing. And, you know, with hindsight, it wasn't such a clever business idea. And that combined with a rogue landlord actually put me out of business and wiped me out completely.
And can I insert something here? That building
Okay.
that you were in, my father worked on it when he was studying to be an architect. So he was one of the people
Oh,
who
wow.
built that building all those years ago.
Such an amazing building, but it's got such dark energy.
Yes, yes, yes. It's that building's seen many transitions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So that spiraled me completely. I mean, I went into a very, very, very dark place, went into a complete depression, blamed myself, went through all that stuff until a friend said to me, Eugenie, you're not doing this well. You'd better go and see somebody. So I did, and I went on to medication, and then COVID hit us.
Wow.
And going into COVID, I thought, I am either going to stay in this deep, dark place, or I'm not, and I choose not. So my mindset when we went into lockdown was I'm on a retreat. I'm taking myself off on a retreat.
Okay.
And I'm retreating in this beautiful place and space. It has a resident cat, so I'm not on my own. I have company.
Yes.
The food's not always as great as it is, but that mindset was kind of, it was exciting. I was on an adventure. And during that time, I have done a lot of the free webinars that have been happening. And that has really opened my mind to a whole new world, which is really interesting. And one of the contrasts for me, which I find really fascinating. So we've been doing with Tony Robbins, John DeMartini, Robin Banks, all those big names that have been at it for years. And then also there's a group of young coaches, lifestyle people from Australia, and they're the younger generation. And again, I find myself in the middle of these two worlds, two realities that are worlds apart. Because the young folk are not telling us how to do it. What they're wanting to do is they're focusing on creating wealth, which will give them the freedom to do what they want to in the world and to be able to make a difference. And for me, that is so powerful, because that, I believe, is the world we are going to move into, or we are busy moving into. I also did a mind power course, which I found really interesting. And coincidentally, at the beginning of the year, a friend of mine said, come on, a group of us are going to do vision boards. Come and do a vision board. So I went and did the vision board. And again, you know, our ego, our programming, all that. I'm looking at the table and I'm thinking, oh, I really would love that picture, but I can't. It's such a beautiful calendar. I can't tear up out of it. So I sit and look and drool. I'm looking at what the others are doing and I'm thinking, oh my God, hers is so beautiful. I can't do that. I created the board. Not only did I create one, but I created two, because that's how I was operating. Came home, put them on my wall, and the one board really did not make me feel comfy. When I looked at it, it kind of scrabbled my insides. So one day I decided I'm going to take it down. So I took it down. The one was there, and that was fabulous, much better. And I actually thought, I rolled up the board and I thought I'll keep it for later. And then I thought, Eugenie, no. Because as you grow, that will no longer serve you.
Yes.
So I tore it up, which for me was a huge thing to do. And so I was working with the board, interacting with it. I cut up my other one. I added bits to it. And then in March, I did another one. And that was really interesting also to see how a lot of what was on the original board was actually coming onto this board. And as I worked with that board, I realized that I'm actually outgrowing what is on here. So I've been working consciously with it as a, as a guide, as a tool. And then a friend of mine said to me, Eugenie, why don't you do vision boards?
Yes.
She challenged me. And I said, how can I do vision boards? She said, do it online.
Yes.
I challenge you. When I put down the phone, I thought it's either now or it's not going to be.
Yes.
So I wrote a letter, an email to people saying, please come, I'm experimenting, come and do with me.
Okay.
And I then realized I have no idea. I've now got to download Zoom. I have no idea how it works. I've got to do PowerPoints. I have no idea how to do that.
Yes.
And, I'm a dinosaur. I'm 69. And at the end, I'd learned to type on a manual typewriter. So technology and I are not friendly.
Yes.
But I did it.
Yes.
I did it because I had to. I
Yes.
had no option. And it's liberated me. Just the thought that I did it was amazing. And also, I believe that the Zoom has been amazing because it's kept me connected.
Yes. Yes.
And it's kept me connected globally.
Yes.
And we've had global people. So I've had people from India. I've had people from America on the vision boards.
That's amazing.
Which is also amazing. So that and again, looking at how all the internet coaching and stuff is working, it's that thing about you make a free offer and then people have the option to buy into other stuff if they want to.
Yes.
So development and opportunity is one of my passions. So I decided to make the vision board workshop a free offer for people right now, because post-COVID,
yes,
people are going to need that.
yes,
So I identified it as a need and
yes,
also as a way to serve.
yes,
So we've piloted, and it's now the vision board part is fabulous. And I'm now starting next week with a group that have been on the vision board process to do masterminds.
okay,
Again, it's starting, I looked at the wheel of life, but at the center of the wheel of life is us.
yes.
And
yes.
if we don't work on ourselves, nothing else is going to work.
Yes.
Now
yes.
that we're working on ourselves and we have a better idea of who we are, we're going to start unpacking different elements on that vision board.
Yes, yes.
So it's for me, I use the vision board as a compass. I believe we're all on our journey. And the vision board is an amazing, it's a compass. Because again, things that I picked out, I have to share this one with you. So one of the women on the group just recently said, so I said, you can't do it online because then you go and look for stuff. You've got to work intuitively to see what speaks to you. So she said, Eugenie, I'm in this house. The only magazines that are here are kite surfing magazines, and they're in Spanish. So I had a flash of genius, and I said to her, okay, let's see what happens here. Just flip through the magazine, and if a sentence or a word or a phrase catches your mind, yes. Tear it out and let's translate it.
Yes.
Eugenie, you have no idea what happened. I said, what happened? She said, I found this phrase, I cut it out, and it is, I am struggling.
Oh, wow.
When she came in, the very first thing she said is, I am struggling to find my purpose. How does that work? How does that work? It's incredible. It really is incredible. And, I think it's time. I think we're at a space now where my catchphrase is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We are all unique. And our uniqueness is our greatest gift to the world.
Yes.
So again, it's to look at what makes you unique. Because
Yes.
if you work from that place of your uniqueness, you have no competition.
Yes. Absolutely.
So again, it's that thing. I know mine is curiosity, it's creativity, it's community, and it's connection.
Yes.
And I think the foundation of that is also courage.
Yes.
Because I think as women, we need courage. And as an entrepreneur, you need a hell of a lot of courage.
Yes.
But again, if we can build a community where we work and exchange and support one another, that for me is going to be the new corporate. The corporate world
Absolutely.
that goes in and buys everybody and couldn't care about the impact of their things, I don't believe that's going to be serving us in the new world.
I just don't think that the planet can sustain that kind of behavior any longer.
It can't. It can't. And what gives me great hope and joy is working, having done the sessions with the coaches and the younger ones, the 35 and under. Those guys are the future. They are going to save the planet. They care about the planet. They care about themselves. They
Yes.
eat well. They are much more conscious than we are.
Yes. Yes.
The one thing they don't have at many levels is the EQ, because they text babies, they're computer babies, and I see that there is a huge role again for me sitting in these two worlds.
Yes.
I am I'm an elder. I have wisdom, but I also understand them. So together they can keep me tech savvy, and I can actually help them make emotional sense
Yes.
of what they are doing.
Yes. Yes.
And the opportunity for collaboration at that level is huge.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
also would really love to connect with people who've been the older generation who grew up and in a completely different world, that have been retrenched or retired and feel they have nothing to give. We have a huge amount to give. So to harness that and add value to creating what we have and what we've experienced, I believe we can share with those who are actually going to lead the planet into a new dimension.
Oh, wow. What an inspiring story, Eugenie. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I appreciate it so much. That's got so much wisdom and inspiration in for everybody who's watching. Now, I see we're moving towards the end of our time. Do you have any closing comments for maybe something, advice for somebody who's thinking about going into business for themselves, because you've been self-propelled for a very long time?
I really believe that the new way of being is we need to be moving out of our minds and into our hearts. So if what you're thinking of doing does not make your heart sing, find something else. We are programmed. My parents wanted me to be a teacher. I would have made a useless teacher, but at a level they were correct, because I do teach, but I don't teach in school teaching. I think also we need to be supporting one another, and we need to be being honest. And that's for me what COVID has done. We are having calls from our homes. People are having business meetings with a child climbing onto the lap, because that's the reality of where we are. Authenticity is the new black. Be as authentic as you possibly can. And together we will move forward. Focus on what change you can make in your world.
Yes.
And if we all make positive change in our little sphere, together we will change the world.
Oh, those are such beautiful messages. Thank you so much. And Eugenie, if anybody wants to speak to you, where can we find you online?
I've got a dated website at eugeniedrakes.com. Otherwise, they can email me at info@piece.co.za.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time to share with me today. That was so inspiring, and you've offered so much value for the people watching. I really enjoyed that.
Melanie, thank you for doing what you are doing. You're giving us courage and you're giving us inspiration. You're fueling us.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. It's my pleasure.